thank you for being here.
Wo magst du dich hinsetzen?
Ja. Wie geht es? The microphone works. Okay. Steffi, thank you so much for having us here. Steffi is always bringing together everyone from everywhere. And this is also where I met Markus Braun at DLD. And I was also impressed by this German fintech company, digital, the future. So everyone, I didn't really understand what it was all about, but it was very impressive. And then all of a sudden, newspapers started to write. German newspapers were still hailing the company. The Financial Times was saying that they're crooks and that there were things going on behind the scenes. And when I read these articles, I was wondering, what's going on here? Is it the rivalry between two countries? What is it? And then all of a sudden, this wonderful company crashed. And then, being a filmmaker, I went to my friends at Sky and at ARD, and I walked in the door, and there were people there. Julia,
yes.
She was executive producer, and yes.
Yeah, it's true. You walked into the door with an incredible idea, with an incredible energy, and as often is the thing with these things, sometimes, someone's failure is someone else's success, and we got lucky because you created a beautiful film, and it was just so that at Sky we were looking at launching our own original documentary channel, and this was our first original documentary, which we're very proud of, thanks to Gabriela, and she always came in with a very different point of view. So rather than focusing on what exactly had happened and who was responsible here in Germany, we always were incredibly interested in who was behind it all, bringing them down, who were the critics, and you shone a spotlight on it.
Thank you very much. Since we're sort of only a small audience here, I also want to mention Benji and Jono Bergmann. The one is in Tel Aviv, the other is in Vienna. Those were the directors, the young directors of this film who can't be here today. And I want to mention Zoima Sorabi, who was executive producer with me. And we were literally fighting for 9 months to get this show done under COVID, in a COVID situation. So we would like to show you just an introduction. So how is this possible? How was this possible? I think looking back to it a year after they crashed and a year after the pandemic started, I think it is very important that we all concentrate on a shift in mindsets, that there is a paradigm shift, that post-pandemic, I think none of us can go back to pre-pandemic times. I think there has to be a new normal for all of us personally, business-wise, and as a society. And this is also what Steffi just said. It's very important that we look at these things from a different angle. I think the new normal is, for me personally, I think it's a process of healing. It's a process of concentrating on decency, on fairness, on gender equality, on participation, and on ethics in business. And I think if we're talking about ethics in business, we all need role models, and role models play very important roles, and we need gatekeepers who let these role models come in. This is where I come to the main protagonist of our film, and that is Pav Gill, who unfortunately can't be here today because he's in Bangkok and there are travel restrictions and quarantine and everything. So I'm glad, Pav, at least to see you virtually. We've gotten so used to it, but I find it very nice to see people, to see an audience, to actually be here with other people. So Pav, hello from us here, and we're happy to welcome you.
Hi, Gabriela. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Pav. Pav, you were so proud to work for a German company. You were the eyes and ears for Wirecard as a senior legal counsel, where you were the eyes and ears on the ground in Asia to protect Wirecard's interests. And suddenly the world cracked. What happened?
I think that's a question we're all still trying to figure out. What exactly happened and why did it happen? I mean, like what you said, it was supposed to be a German company. You know, the German branding is very well known for doing things the right way as the leader of the EU. Some would argue, and it's just got a reputation of, having colleagues who are ethical, who operate based on trust, and no one would have expected a listed German company worth 24 billion euros to have been a criminal enterprise. It took everyone by shock, and it's shaken me, myself, as my family, my friends, everybody, and I'm pretty sure the German Republic as well, as to what happened here.
So how did you find out things were going wrong?
Within 2 to 3 weeks of joining the company, things didn't really make sense. I mean, you have people who were hired, such as Ido Kurniawan, whose CV didn't add up, but yet he was given, total control of finances spanning from South America all the way to New Zealand. And this guy didn't have, at least on the surface of it, the relevant experience. And, everyone was afraid of him. But yet, on the other hand, structurally, things didn't add up. Like, why, if the company is worth so much money, does Ido have to always back headquarters for even a simple thing such as wages every month? Something doesn't really, make any sense. And my job was to protect the company as the senior legal counsel, the sole one in Munich, in Singapore, in Asia, actually, looking after 11 markets. I wanted to find out what was happening, why are things the way it is? Are they integration issues, cultural issues, or what's going on? And eventually, things added up, and an internal whistleblower came to me in confidence, as the movie would get into detail with. And that's where we realized that, it's not integration issues, it's not cultural issues, it is a full-blown fraud that's happening.
And your first idea was that you turned to Munich, you turned to Aschheim to tell them that something really bad was going on in Asia, because you still thought that Germany would fix it. And then
yes, yep, that's right. So, right away, like within minutes of ending the meeting with the whistleblower, who came to me, I was on a phone call with Munich Legal and telling them, guys, this is what's happened. I think, we need to fix this. My initial thought was, is it just a few bad apples in the company? Like, particularly Ido, the finance team, or just some other bad actors. And I genuinely thought that reporting this right away to Munich would set us on the right path to, fixing those issues.
So then you found out that Munich took over the investigation, and for you it was then clear that the culprits were sitting in Aschheim?
Yes, it was very disappointing because, a lot of the evidence that we came across was purely objective in the sense that you had people transferring monies from corporate bank accounts to their personal bank accounts. You had emails from themselves with logos of fake, third-party companies we had no legitimate interest with, and those same logos were being used to create invoices, for example, that looked exactly like the Wirecard invoices. Monies were moving. You wouldn't pay 500,000 euros for a Malaysian market intelligence report in Malaysia, for example. And a lot of these things led back, or fingers were pointing towards instructions from, higher ups in the Munich all the way to the board. So when the board took over, when the board eventually found out, they wanted to, take over the investigation. From my understanding, Markus Braun was very unhappy that his time was being wasted on 30-40 million euro issues, and Jan Marsalek was upset. He said, Asia is my home ground. I created this place. Why did I not know what's going on? Let's find a way to shut this down. And he wanted to take over the investigation. And we were upset, and emails were sent saying you can't have people who are persons of interest investigate themselves, and that's where things went downhill pretty quickly, at least on a personal and professional front.
So you were told to shut up and go on with what you were doing and to look away, but instead you had the courage to go on. You had your mother helping you, which I think was very important for you, and we interviewed her, and she's a wonderful person. So I think she's also a great believer in decency. So she was a great help to you. But where did you take the courage to just go on with it?
I think courage has always been something that's been innate. My mom's a single parent. We grew up in very challenging ways, and a sense of justice and wanting to do right was always instilled, at least in me, as a person who was pretty much tired of seeing wrongdoing happening, tired of seeing trust being abused all the time. And, the way Wirecard behaved towards me during the last few months, as well as after I left the company, and then seeing what, health impact it had on my mom as well, I decided that, okay, enough is enough, and we need to really expose this criminal enterprise.
They threatened to kill you by telling you to go to Jakarta. What kept you from going there?
Well, my mom pretty much said that she's going to keep the passport and I'm not going to find it. But I think there were also 2 calls from Munich anonymously telling me that they understand I'm being sent on a business trip to Jakarta. And they strongly advise that I do not go because and also Ido was back, having gone underground for a while in the US during the investigation phase. And he was back, and he was, constantly reminding everybody as to how he's married to a drug dealing family in Jakarta, and, saying that Wirecard has been, and I quote, like he said, Wirecard has been known to make troublemakers disappear. And he also said, but you have nothing to worry about, right? And, in the kind of way where it is definitely an implied threat. And when you see a business trip with no legitimate purpose being set up, and people telling you that you have to go, even if it's next week, 2 weeks later, or 2 months later, and on top of that, you're getting tip-offs from Munich, that's when you know that, all rules of fairness, all rules of ethics, right? Just the whole management process has failed, and these guys will not stop in wanting to get rid of you because you are the last man standing.
So that was very, very, very challenging for you to just keep on doing the things you were doing. What do you think? I mean, it was not just only a fraudulent criminal enterprise, Wirecard. I mean, there had been warnings from many people going on since 2010, which we know now. For well over 10 years, people had been reporting, people had been filing the Münchner Staatsanwaltschaft and telling them to do something against Wirecard. Why do you think that neither the regulators nor the auditors, I mean, they were paid by Wirecard, so you can say they didn't want to look, so they didn't look. But why did the prosecutors and why didn't the regulators look? I mean, we're in Germany, so one would expect that these institutions would be working.
This is, I think, the most shocking aspect of everything. If you watch the movie, you would see how so many attempts were made, and what in the end happened was the people trying to expose the company ended up being the ones being investigated. And if you're in a situation where you're up against not just a 24 billion euro giant, but also against institutions who on at least, prima facie appear to be protecting this company, then you know that this is a battle that is just not your usual exposing of a standard fraudulent company. I have no idea why Munich prosecutors didn't react. They were given the same dossier as the FT were given, but it's just sad. And just even now reflecting on it, it was the journalists that ended up doing their jobs. It was the journalists that ended up doing the jobs, not just of the prosecutors, but of BaFin, of whoever else is meant to be looking at these things. And why that has happened, I have no idea, but I hope that the parliamentary inquiry or the many good people that remain in power can figure it out and put an end to it.
Yes, that's what we all hope, also for the sake of Germany, that people can look at Germany and not say Germany has become a country where these things can happen, like Dieselgate happened and other things happen here. They happen everywhere, but as you said, you were proud to work for a German company because allegedly they are decent and totally different. So do you think it's also to do with national and international, that you have national regulators and international companies? Do you think that helps people to do these kind of things more easily?
No, I think it really boils down as to wanting to do the right thing. And that's just the moral compass at the end of the day. It is not something that's restricted to individuals or employees. It is something that's, also expanded towards regulators, governments, and enforcement agencies. I do not think any excuse can be proffered in this case. It was a failure on multiple grounds. And just going back to your point, I do not feel that this Wirecard incident should reflect permanently like a stain on the German Republic, because there are many good, hardworking, honest individuals there, and Wirecard should not tarnish that reputation. So I still have full confidence, and in instances like that, where problems happen, where agencies have failed, where laws have failed, this is usually the way for a country or a jurisdiction to say that, okay, this has happened, but it will never happen again, and this is why. So I think the whole world, at least in where I am, are waiting to see whether finally the right thing would be done and whether it would repeat again.
Yes, I think we're all looking forward to this and hoping for this. And thanks to the press, thanks to people like us who are allowed to make films about it. And thanks to whistleblowers, these things can hopefully and ultimately be resolved. Whistleblowers have been attacked over the last years, and some whistleblowers are really sort of been kept in prison like huge criminals. I think whistleblowers have a huge moral task. What are the tools that, as a whistleblower, you can use to go forward?
I think the only main tool, other than things like courage and wanting to do the right thing, the one power that whistleblowers have is the truth. If you have the truth, it's objective, then, people always ask me, do you live in fear? Do you not fear that you have now come out? And my response nowadays is that if you have the truth, then why are you the one living in fear? It should be the people who are committing those crimes, who have committed those crimes, or continue to do so, that should be living in fear. They need to be wondering whether the next day enforcement agencies are going to come knocking down their doors, they're in their homes, or raiding the company. So if you have truth, you have that courage, and you have the determination to want to do the right thing, then it's a decision you have to make for yourself.
So what advice would you give to people that are in a similar situation as you have been?
The advice I can give is listen to yourself, weigh the situation. Do you really want to go down this path? Because once you do, there's no turning back from it. But yes, if you have a very strong moral compass, if you have a company that has gone out of its way to try to destroy you and people that then you should just do the right thing.
Thank you so much, Pav. You're a wonderful role model for all of us. Julia?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Pav. I don't know if you can
Thank
still
you.
hear me. Yes, it was wonderful to work with you, and you are one of our modern, true heroes, and very happy that you're part of our little family now.
Thank you.
Yes, thanks so much.
And
Great
thank
to
you,
be at
DLD, for
virtually.
having us. Thank you.
Thank you.